My boyfriend restricted my friendships after my best friend died, leaving me alone and vulnerable. When I made a new friend, I confessed my fears, but my boyfriend had other ideas. You want to break up? Now I'm haunted by doubts about cheating. Was I wrong? It began 2 summers ago when I was in Brazil with my boyfriend. My best friend from childhood tragically passed away in an accident, which was incredibly difficult for me. I felt deep sorrow and immense guilt because I had not spoken to him or responded to his texts for the previous 3 months, as my boyfriend had prohibited me from communicating with any other men, including my old friends. I left Brazil to attend the funeral, and my boyfriend was upset that I had gone, as his family lived in Brazil and I was meant to be there to spend time with them. Nevertheless, I had to go. I remember feeling as though my boyfriend did not grasp the severity of what I was experiencing losing my friend. During this time, I felt incredibly isolated and was in considerable pain over the loss of my friend. My boyfriend and I ended up having numerous arguments while he was in Brazil and I was at home. I expressed to him that I felt he did not care about me, among other things. He responded that he was trying to enjoy his time with his family, which I understood because he seldom had the opportunity to see them. However, we experienced a great deal of tension. In the midst of my emotional turmoil, I threatened to break up with him. This was a threat made often, but never with serious intent. I recall that this time he actually agreed with me. I told him no, that I was merely upset and assumed, as usual, that we would work through it. However, this time felt different. He called me and expressed uncertainty about our future together, mentioning that he wanted his children to be close to his family in Brazil one day. This information shattered me. I had never felt such profound pain. I lost 15 pounds, could not eat, and struggled to sleep. It was undoubtedly the lowest point I had ever reached, fearing that I might lose him. Eventually, we reconciled, but I was left with a lot of apprehension. Before this incident, I believed we would get engaged that summer. I thought he would propose. Then came this situation where he wanted to break up. He reassured me that he did not want to end things, but for the first time, I was genuinely unsure if he wanted me in his life. When he returned to the United States, things felt quite odd between us. I felt an overwhelming level of anxiety about the possibility of him leaving me. I was also saddened by the fact that we were not yet engaged. When we returned to college, attending different institutions, the strangeness persisted. I felt insecure in our relationship and constantly anxious, worried I was irritating him with my feelings. Additionally, it was my senior year of college and many changes were occurring on campus. My best friend and former roommate had moved off campus and I rarely saw her. My sister, who was my current roommate, was dating someone at school, leaving her preoccupied with him. Many of my close friends had graduated and I felt incredibly lonely. I remember eating alone in my dorm every day, feeling like a freak, a loner, as if something were fundamentally wrong with me. After losing my best friend in the car accident, I felt as though I had no one to spend time with. I could text and call my boyfriend, but I had no one on campus to be with. I have always struggled with concerns about how I come across to others. I did not want to be perceived as a girl without a social circle, without friends, so I decided to attempt to make new friends. I prayed to God for assistance in making connections, yet I faced continuous silence. All the girls on campus seemed to already have established social groups. As a senior, I was no longer viewed as someone needing to get involved in small groups to make friends. I recall trying diligently to initiate conversations with different people, but nothing seemed to click. I tend to be a relatively quiet person and have always relied on others to reach out for friendship, which made the effort feel strange. One day, while walking to class, a guy I recognized approached and introduced himself. He asked for my name and major, the typical introductory questions. Later that day, I noted that he added me on Instagram, which I found intriguing. This might sound unusual, but I have always assumed that when men do this, they might have an interest in me. However, attending a Christian college caused me to consider that he might simply be being friendly. As time passed, one day I posted a story on Instagram featuring a Starbucks drink, asking which one people preferred, allowing them to vote. He commented that neither was good and that Dunkin' was better. I felt glad he commented because it indicated he was paying attention to me. We began a conversation where I insisted that Starbucks was far superior. He mentioned that he had never tried Starbucks, and I suggested we go together so he could experience how much better it was than Dunkin'. I felt excited, thinking this might be my chance to form a friendship. I have always found it easier to connect with men rather than women, as men generally find it simpler to become friends if they find someone attractive. I presumed he likely had a crush on me, explaining his interest in talking to me. I found it curious, though, because my Instagram featured many pictures of my boyfriend and me, including some of us kissing. This left me uncertain regarding his intentions, particularly since he could see that I was in a relationship. The following day, I was heading home for the weekend, so I deleted our messages and refrained from texting him, not wanting my boyfriend to see and become angry, given his concerns about me having male friends. My boyfriend had expressed displeasure in the past if I texted any man, even in a remote manner. Upon returning that week, I reached out to this guy again and he asked how my weekend was. I was thrilled at the prospect of having a friend on campus to hang out with, someone with whom I could spend time. I hoped he would want to be my friend. I recall our texting. He asked what I was up to, and I informed him that I was bored and studying. He then asked if I wanted to study together, to which I agreed. As I prepared to meet him, I applied some makeup because I did not want him to perceive me as unattractive or undesirable. When we met, we studied, and during our time together, he asked about my summer. I shared that it was challenging due to losing my best friend. I also mentioned that things had been tough afterward because of my relationship with my boyfriend. I think I revealed this partly because it was the truth, partly to let him know about my boyfriend, and partly perhaps subconsciously, because I hoped he might want to be my friend, and that he would be more inclined to form a connection if he thought my boyfriend and I were having issues. I was uncertain about whether he liked me or not, but I was aware that many of my prior male friends had secretly harbored crushes on me, which they later admitted, and this motivated their desire for friendship with me. I believed that if I wanted a friend, even if it was a guy who had a crush, it would still be beneficial to have him as a companion. I did not care about his intentions as long as I gained a friend. I was confident I did not find him attractive and would never want to date him, so I did not feel I was doing anything inappropriate. I recognized that I would never leave my boyfriend for him or cross any boundaries in my mind that would constitute cheating, like flirting or anything physical. I thought that if he had a crush, he might want to be more my friend, and I could ensure I did not reciprocate those feelings. During our conversation, he expressed sympathy for my situation, and I found myself unintentionally tearing up as discussing everything made me emotional. I felt foolish for being so vulnerable, but it was a difficult chapter in my life, and speaking on it triggered those feelings. When we parted, he hugged me goodbye, likely out of compassion for my tears. Later, I texted him to apologize for my emotional breakdown, recognizing that he barely knew me. He assured me it was fine and that he was glad to be there to listen. I thought about how he was a Christian and likely just being kind and feeling sorry for me. Days later, I saw him on campus while getting coffee, and he initiated another conversation. I was happy to have someone to share coffee with during my time on campus, and we discussed various topics. I mentioned one of my female friends he could possibly get to know. He shared details about his family and even talked about his celebrity crushes when I inquired about his type, hoping to persuade him to like my friend. He asked about my preferences, and I contemplated whether he was doing this because he liked me or not. I made a conscious effort not to flirt with him during our exchange. When I invited him for Starbucks after class, he agreed and offered to pick me up. During our drive, he chatted casually about where he was from. He then inquired about my relationship with my boyfriend, and I relayed some of my concerns. Looking back, I recalled that once again I had a suspicion that by sharing my worries, I might be giving him hope for a chance to pursue me, but I was certain I would never end my relationship with my boyfriend. I derived enjoyment from having someone to listen to me, someone who appeared concerned for my well-being. I often expressed my worries, always concluding with, "But I love him and cannot let him go," as these were genuine concerns. I may have exaggerated their seriousness for effect since I truly wanted to be with my boyfriend and marry him. I recall thinking that part of my frustration stemmed from my desire for him to propose, as I yearned to marry him. Regardless, I once again mentioned my female friend to him, ensuring he understood I was attempting to set him up with someone. I observed how he reacted to this, hoping his rejection might suggest he liked me instead. However, he expressed interest in my friend. That realization worried me. I envisioned a repeat of my past experiences where he would want to hang out frequently with her, like my sister with her boyfriend, leaving me feeling alone again. The notion made me sad, not because I wished to be with him, but because I would once more find myself without friends to keep me company. He offered to pay for my coffee, which I found somewhat unusual, although my previous male friend had done the same. As we sat together, I accidentally spilled coffee on my hand, and he wiped it off with his finger, which struck me as odd but also made me appreciate the care he exhibited. I realized I was craving human contact and affection. While I never found him attractive, he was quite the opposite of my type. He generously offered me his jacket when we left, but I declined, feeling that such gestures were reserved for my boyfriend. Instead, I simply rested it on my hands in the car, not wanting to appear rude. I also attempted to arrange a meeting between him and another friend, hoping they might connect. I envisioned the possibility of them becoming friends someday. I just felt uncertain about how to organize it without alarming my boyfriend about having a male friend. I distinctly remember one occasion when we were texting. I sent him the softball team roster, since I am a member of the team, and asked which girl he would be interested in. His response was that none were really his type, making me wonder if he genuinely did not find me appealing. This was interesting since most of my male friends would have indicated some interest if they had found one of them attractive, often adding that she was off limits because she was in a relationship with me. I felt deflated, questioning my attractiveness before quickly dismissing it, realizing I did not want him anyway. Subsequently, I shared everything that had transpired with my boyfriend. I had researched online whether having a male friend was inappropriate, and many sources suggested that keeping such friendships secret was wrong, so I decided it was time to tell him. I did not want to do anything wrong or hurt my boyfriend. I loved him deeply, yet I yearned for a friend at that moment. I also contemplated the possibility that if my boyfriend and I were to break up, I would never date this friend, but it would be comforting to have him around as a friend during tough times. To be honest, I found this guy quite unattractive, and upon reflection, I realized I did not genuinely care about who he was as an individual. I paid little attention to what he said or what defined him. I simply appreciated that he was attentive toward me. Once I informed my boyfriend, I promptly ended my friendship with this guy. I recognized that I felt no distress over losing that friendship. It didn't hurt at all to exclude him from my life. I have been engulfed with fear since learning about potential cheating, as reports indicated that emotional connections can sometimes lead to infidelity. I never considered myself crossing any lines at the time, as I thought I maintained clear boundaries, which now leaves me immensely worried. For the past year, I have been in a state of distress, waking up every morning consumed with anxiety over whether I cheated. This thought has occupied my mind every moment of every day, leaving me terrified. Story 2. Dating a remarkable woman, 27F, is a dream, but after a failed intimate encounter, our chemistry has stalled. I felt really in my head about performance anxiety, I confessed. Now I wonder, how do I address our physical disconnect while respecting her feelings about intimacy? I, a 31-year-old male, have been dating this woman, a 27-year-old female, for just over 2 months, and I really like her. She's incredibly candid, humorous, and creative, and I always enjoy our time together. We share similar values regarding religion, politics, and even future family plans, and I find her incredibly attractive. At the beginning of our relationship, our initial kisses were somewhat awkward, which I believe we both attributed to nerves. However, it seemed that our kissing and makeout sessions improved in the following dates, and we genuinely connected with each other. During our fourth or fifth date, we had a wonderful evening filled with drinks, dinner, and a show, which culminated in us returning to her place, where things progressed to the bedroom shortly after. I had not been intimate with anyone for about a year, and while we were tipsy and playful, I struggled to maintain my erection due to performance anxiety and the spontaneity of the moment, as well as the lack of protection. Consequently, we ended up cuddling for a long time before I went home. In the 6 weeks since then, we have gone out on perhaps 10 more occasions. Although there have been a few instances of making out that became quite passionate, we have not advanced beyond kissing for various reasons, such as her being on her period, my forgetting my condoms in the car, which I felt would ruin the mood if I took a break to get them, or her having early work commitments the next day. Over the past 2 weeks, I have noticed that our kissing has not included the use of tongues, despite my attempts to reintroduce it like we did earlier. Additionally, she has not reciprocated as frequently by straddling me or placing her hands on my chest or around my neck. Last week, she nervously mentioned something she did not like about our kissing, and I took her comments to heart and tried to adjust, but it ultimately diminished the mood and I left shortly thereafter. I have not received any complaints about kissing or anything related to intimacy in the past, and it truly seemed that we were both enjoying ourselves during the first month of dating. Thus, I am having difficulty understanding how and where things went awry, as well as how to rectify the situation. I am not so self-important that I dismiss the possibility that I might simply be out of practice when it comes to kissing or escalating physically. But apart from that one instance, she has not made any changes on her end or mentioned issues that bother her regarding our physical connection, and I obviously cannot address problems that I am unaware of. I have not been particularly vocal about these concerns or made many overt attempts to escalate physically because, during our initial time in the bedroom, she revealed that she has medical conditions that can make intimacy challenging and potentially one-sided. While I feel a bit sexually frustrated and would love to explore that aspect of our relationship further, I do not want to place additional pressure on her for something that is largely outside of her control. I do not believe there is anything significantly amiss in our relationship outside of the physical dimensions. We communicate frequently, sharing little details about our daily lives, the creative projects she is engaged in, my hobbies, the cooking I do, and the anime we are watching. Our in-person conversations are vibrant and generally devoid of dull moments, and we continue to have fun on our dates. Even though she has expressed that she is not particularly a romantic person and tends to operate more on logic than emotions, I believe there is a mutual understanding regarding our relationship. Despite the physical aspects of our connection seemingly being in a holding pattern from my perspective, we continue to schedule time together during her limited time off from work, and we have discussed our mutual intentions of dating with the goal of finding life partners and having children. I really like her and feel that we could have a wonderful future if we can overcome this challenge regarding physical intimacy and chemistry, which is part of why I have been so patient about the situation. One aspect that does concern me is that when I first attempted to initiate a conversation about defining the relationship, About a week after our failed attempt at intimacy, she became somewhat anxious, claiming that we barely knew each other. Since then, I have opted to hold off on that discussion until we gain more clarity regarding our physical chemistry, not just the companionship and emotional compatibility aspects of our relationship. I will see her in a few days, and if things continue to feel off regarding our kissing, making out, or any form of physical escalation, I definitely intend to bring it up. Although I dislike confrontation and somewhat dread the notion that things may be problematic for reasons that we cannot address, I truly want to understand what is happening and how we can get back on track, as I see significant potential in our relationship, and I do not wish to date anyone else in the near future since I believe they would pale in comparison to her. To preempt any comments, I do not believe she is seeing anyone else due to her previously stated busy work schedule, and the fact that she indicated she was not dating anyone else when I attempted to discuss defining our relationship for that very reason. If she is, I would naturally feel upset and somewhat heartbroken. But since we have not broached the topic of exclusivity or labels, I view it as more emotionally painful for me rather than morally wrong. In summary, I, a 31-year-old male, have been dating a 27-year-old female for over 2 months. I feel we connect well on many levels, but the physical aspect of our relationship has stagnated and even regressed following an unsuccessful attempt at intimacy. How can I respectfully and kindly address our physical and chemistry issues without jeopardizing everything?